Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another edition of Freeze Take. It is time to turn your attention to the NBA. That's right, playoff basketball is here, and there are lots of exciting matchups set for the first round of this year's NBA playoffs. But I'm going to hone in on what I think will be the best matchup of each respective conference. And we're going to kick it off with the number 4 Toronto Raptors against the number 5 Washington Wizards. Now, the Raptors and the Wizards are the most evenly matched teams in the first round of this year's playoffs. Not surprising, 4 and 5 seeds, you expect that, but they have similar stories going into the playoffs. Started the season hot, cooled off about midway through, and then struggled the rest of the way. The Raptors went 13 and 16 after the All-Star break, and the Wizards went 13 and 15 in that same time period. So both teams have a bit of a sour taste in their mouth, and they're looking to gain a little momentum going into the second round. The Raptors swept the regular season series 3-0, but the Wiz were without Bradley Beal in 2 of those games, and in the one game he did play, he scored 26 points in an overtime loss. So I'm going to sweep that 3-0 record under the rug, and I'm going with the Wiz kids. We saw Bradley Beal elevate his game in last year's playoffs. He led the Wizards in scoring in that playoff run with 19 points per game. He needs to be that same X factor in this first round matchup against the Raptors. He needs to be the guy on the perimeter that makes the Raptors defense pay when they give too much attention to John Wall and Paul Pierce. Bradley Beal shot 40% from the three-point line during the regular season. And if he can bring that to the playoffs, that's going to give Washington so much more to work with when they hit those inevitable offensive ruts. I mean, sometimes they look like an offensively challenged team, but Toronto's not a great defensive team. I mean, they finished near the bottom of the league in defensive ratings. So Washington will get their shots from the perimeter. They just got to knock them down. And that starts with Bradley Beal. But the Raptors do have home court advantage in this series, and they've got a great playoff atmosphere arena. Their fans are loud and enthusiastic, and I'm sure the Raptors are going to give them plenty to scream about. I mean, they are the 3rd best offensively rated team in the NBA, so they're going to score. Throw in the fact that they've got a great 1-2 punch in DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. This is going to be a challenge for Washington, to say the least. If Kyle Lowry is healthy, my bet's are in Game 7, and that's where Paul Pierce comes into play. This guy has made a career out of delivering daggers to this Toronto team, and he did it most recently in Game 7 of last year's first-round matchup between the Nets and the Raptors. I still think he has their number, so I'm going with the Wizards in 7. On to the Western Conference for what I think is the most exciting matchup of the first round. The number 3 LA Clippers versus the number 6 San Antonio Spurs. Now the Spurs are looking to defend their title, and they're going to have to start that journey against one of the best offensive teams in the league, the Clippers, and of course one of the best point guards in the league, Chris Paul. So we've got Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili versus Paul, Griffin, and Jordan. But I think the Spurs have that extra oomph, and his name is Kawhi Leonard. Yeah, Kawhi Leonard, the defending Finals MVP and one of the best two-way players in the league at this moment, and possibly the best defensive player we've seen in the league this year. Greg Popovich feels more than comfortable throwing him out there and giving him the assignment of guarding the opposing team's best player, and you better believe he's going to be guarding Chris Paul. As Chris Paul goes, so does this Clippers offense. We saw last year in that second round matchup against the Thunder that when Chris Paul struggles to get in the paint and initiate the offense, this whole Clippers team struggles. And they're not as good when they run the offense through Blake Griffin. So if Kawhi Leonard can come in and really put the screws on Chris Paul defensively, I really like the chances for the Spurs to come out of this round. But the Spurs are going to have their hands full trying to stop Blake Griffin. And if Thiago Splitter is out for the duration of this first round, that's really going to hurt their front court defense. If Boris Diaw doesn't step up and be the threat the Spurs need on the perimeter and in the paint, they could struggle. Throw in the fact that the Spurs are also going to have to account for another sharpshooter on the perimeter in J.J. Redick, who's averaging 16 points per game, and he's going to be the X factor for the Clippers. But I'm rolling with the San Antonio Spurs because they've got a deeper bench. They've got more guys who can come off the bench and contribute at a high level, and have been doing it for years, like Ginobili and Boris Diaw and Patty Mills. That can be a little overwhelming for any team. In fact, this Clippers team is going to need guys like Chris Paul and Blake Griffin to step up their game huge to compensate for a weak bench. So those are the matchups I'm most looking forward to in this first round. My picks, the Wizards over the Toronto Raptors in 7, and the San Antonio Spurs over the LA Clippers in 6. Let me know what you guys think. Any predictions you have for this first round, leave them in the comment box. Don't forget to click that like button. And then subscribe, follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll be here to talk if you want to.